If you've ever had to deal with toenail fungus, you know just how frustrating it can be. You try all these treatments and they just don't seem to stick. But what if I told you they fail because they're targeting the wrong thing entirely? See, the real cure isn't about what you put on your toe. It's all about what's happening inside your body. Let's get into it. So this is the million-dollar question, right? Why do so many of us fight this thing for years, trying every cream, every soak, every remedy out there, only for it to come roaring back? You do everything right, you're so careful, but that fungus, it just doesn't seem to care. Well, here's the reason why, and it's actually pretty simple. Most of those treatments are just fighting the symptom you can see. They're not doing anything to change the underlying conditions that let the fungus set up camp in the first place. It's kind of like you're constantly mopping up the puddle on the floor, but never ever fixing the leaky pipe. And that brings us to this really interesting way of looking at it. You get toenail fungus because you're just too attractive. Now hold on, I don't mean attractive in that way. I mean your body has become way too attractive to pathogens. You've accidentally rolled out the welcome mat and created an environment that they just can't resist. So the real solution here isn't just about killing the fungus. It's about becoming a much less attractive host. Let's dig into what that actually means. Here's the thing you've got to understand. Microbes, bacteria, yeast, fungus, they are literally everywhere. They're on every surface. They don't cause a problem all by themselves. They only get a chance to take over when our body's internal environment gets thrown off balance, creating the perfect home for them to grow and thrive. So what is it that makes a body an irresistible 5-star resort for fungus? Well, it really boils down to a few key things that they absolutely love. Okay, first, they need a dark, moist, and warm place to live, which sounds a lot like the inside of a shoe, right? Second, they need a steady food source, something to feast on. And finally, they need to be able to hide out from your body's own security team, your immune system. So, what's on the menu for these little guys? Well, their absolute favorite #1 meal is sugar. And I'm not talking about the sugar in your cookie. I'm talking about the sugar that's already floating around in your bloodstream. It's like a 24/7 all-you-can-eat buffet delivered right to them. For these simple organisms, sugar is pure rocket fuel. Okay, so this is the light bulb moment. If we want to get rid of this stuff for good, we have to make our bodies a terrible place for it to live. It is time for what we're calling the Get Unattractive Plan. And this plan has 3 main parts. It's a 3-pronged attack. First, we're going to cut off their food supply. Second, we're going to change the external environment on our feet. And third, we're going to power up our body's own natural defenses to help clear them out. All right, step 1. This is the single most important change you can make on the inside. Cut off their fuel. By lowering your blood glucose levels, you are literally starving the fungus. You're shutting down that sugar buffet we just talked about. When you take away their food, it becomes almost impossible for them to survive, let alone multiply. Next up, we have to deal with their house, the external environment. This is all about good foot care. Trim your nails short and straight across, get a little brush and clean out any gunk from underneath, and always dry your feet completely after you wash them. A hairdryer on a low setting actually works great for this. But most importantly, let your feet breathe. Go barefoot around the house, and if you can, get some sunlight on them. UV light is a natural enemy of fungus. Now for step 3, let's boost those defenses. Think about it. Your toes are the farthest point from your heart. They're like the distant outpost of your body. So circulation down there isn't always the best, but just 20 minutes of a brisk walk can double your heart rate and quadruple your circulation. That pushes all this warm, oxygen-rich blood packed with immune cells all the way down to your toes to fight that infection head on. And that brings us to a part of our defense system that so many people miss: managing stress. Now, I know it might sound totally unrelated, but your stress level directly controls your nervous system. And your nervous system is like a master switch that can either turn your body's healing abilities on or turn them off. So our body really has 2 main modes. On one side, you have the sympathetic mode. That's your stress response, or fight or flight. When you're in that state, it actually constricts the blood vessels in your hands and feet, and it suppresses your immune system. But on the other side, you've got the parasympathetic mode. This is your relaxation state, feed and breed. This mode opens up those blood vessels and switches your immune system on to focus on healing and repair. And the most amazing part? You can flip that switch yourself. Just by breathing in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds, you can shift your body into that healing state, boosting blood flow and immune power almost instantly. Okay, So you started making all these changes, which is awesome. But it's really important to set your expectations. This is not an overnight fix. Healing takes time because remember, you're not actually fixing the old damaged nail. You are growing a brand new one from scratch. So here's a pretty realistic timeline. Once you start changing your internal environment, you might start to see some clear, healthy new growth at the bottom of the nail in about 6 months. But for a completely new, totally fungus-free nail to grow all the way out, that can take anywhere from 12 to 18 months. Seriously. So patience here is everything. Now, of course, how fast this happens for you is going to depend on things like your age, your overall health, and your nutrition. But the single biggest factor, the one that matters more than anything else, is consistency. Sticking with the plan is what will get you all the way to the finish line. Now, while all that internal work is the real cure, let's talk about some extra tools you can use. Think of these as helpers. They can support the process from the outside, but they aren't the main solution. So there are a bunch of helpful things you can put on your feet. Soaking them in Epsom salts or apple cider vinegar is a classic for a reason. You could also try applying some really powerful antifungal herbals directly to the nail, things like tea tree oil or oregano oil. There are even some targeted homeopathic liquids you can find out there. And then for really severe cases, there are medical options. A doctor can surgically remove a really badly damaged nail, which lets you just start over. There are also prescription pills like Lamisol, but honestly, these should be a last resort. They can be pretty harsh on your liver, so if you do go that route, it is absolutely crucial that your doctor is monitoring your liver enzymes the whole time. So let's end on this thought. What if that pesky toenail fungus isn't really the enemy? What if it's just a message? Maybe it's like a check engine light from your body trying to tell you that there's an imbalance in your circulation, or your immune system, or your blood sugar. When you address the root cause, you're not just fixing a nail, you're actually making your whole body healthier.